Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of the Outer Realm journey for at least 7 years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big shout out and thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Specializes in the Halloween horror genre, but does amazing commission pieces of any type. Also does graphic art for graphic novels and such. So just go check him out. So tonight we're doing the flip side of what we did last night, and I know we're going to touch on a lot of here and there. We're going to touch back on the darker stuff a bit as well, because we really want to get into the differences and so on. And we'll talk in generics, but of course Wayne Mallows is with me, so we're going to talk about his journey of actually purchasing a haunted house, and the signs and things of that nature, and the progression as time went along. So it was a story that began long before my arrival. So it'll be awesome. So tonight we are looking at the lighter side of a haunting. Can we coexist with ghosts and spirits? For many, the answer is yes. Spectral roommates and how to peacefully coexist with your spirit residents. We talk about the benefits, the downfalls, how they can be helpful, how to include them in day-to-day household decisions. And that's if you choose to, and it actually is a thing. So we begin looking beyond the stereotypical word haunting and examine the importance of the awareness, the respect, and boundaries while putting aside the fear. And I can tell you, I've worked with many families, and some of them, who had peaceful spirits did reach out to just so they can learn how to coexist, because they didn't want to see them leave. So there's a whole lot to that, and I think maybe it'll be a nice learning discussion for many people. So before we start, say hello, April, hello. And get Patsy's, woohoo, Folgers for sure. Hello. Hello, Heidi. Hello. It's always nice to see you guys waiting in, chiming in as people start to settle. I can see people are getting into the destination. So please don't be shy. Feel free to just come on in and, leave a comment. I can see your comments from X, from Facebook, from YouTube, from Rumble. I can see all of it aside from Roku. But otherwise, please feel free to comment. And please join me in welcoming the other half, Wayne Mallows.
I made it here.
You did.
Yeah, that's close.
Yeah.
Close.
Me too. Wait. Hello, Mish. It was. It was crazy. I was just messaging, get in the house.
Yeah.
Get some
hard.
stuff done.
It's hard.
Oh, big hello to you from Heidi and everyone. Yes. So tonight we're talking about, the same thing. We've talked about this quite a few times, but not from A to Z. So let's just go on. Let's just talk about why this house specifically. You know how some places just call to you? Tell us. Let's start there for you.
Yeah, it was a bit of an accident, really. I wasn't looking to buy that house at all.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, it wasn't even for sale. It was a weird thing. I was looking at the time. I was looking for a house, kind of like an older home. Like I was living in a newer place. By newer, I mean like 20 years old. And that was a freak show on its own. That's a whole nother story. I went. The realtor took us around to a couple places, and I didn't like them. And I met the fella that owned the one place. It was nice. Don't get me wrong. It was a nice place, but it wasn't what I wanted. Anyway, he said, well, I got another house that's coming up for sale. It's around the corner, but it's not everyone's cup of tea, right? It's like, what does that mean? And so I drove around the corner, drove up the street, and the realtor came with us. And it was this big sort of like Gothic revival, Victorian manor house with an offset tower. But it was brick, and all the brick was painted blue, like Smurf blue, recycle bin blue. And I was just like, oh my God, like what happened?
Yeah. Who
What
does
happened?
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I fell in love with it, I just loved the thing, and that was, it's like, wow, this is a beautiful house. And so I said, yeah, let's have a look at it. So we wandered through it, and it was all split up. It had been split up in 1969 into two apartments and sort of a back room, so three units, I guess it was, and it was also being run as a bed and breakfast. So it was really divided up inside, and the outside was rough, and the garage was falling down, and it was a mess. I wish I hadn't looked so keen, because he knew the price went up as soon as I looked at this. I
No.
couldn't keep a smile off my face. So that was
Bugger.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting. But when I walked around, it was kind of like, not right away did I get the feeling that it was haunted. But I went back several times because I needed to look at things. I really wanted to, is it stable? Like, can it be restored? Can it go back to a single family dwelling? On and on and on. So I think it was on the second or third time that I was there. And the way I describe it to people from my perspective was, if you've ever been into an attic, an old attic on a summer's day, and I know it's hot, but there's that dusty wood smell, that. I was outside and I was looking up at the house, and I got that smell outside. Like, you shouldn't get that smell outside. And I got that smell, and I was like, wow, that's kind of trippy. There was no breeze, there was nothing. It was a July day. And I thought that was different. And I was leaving to go, and I didn't hear it, but like, the way hearing works is you hear sound waves, and it goes to your brain, and your brain processes it, right? That's sound, right? Take away the sound part. So my brain is just processing what I'm not hearing. And there was this woman. At first, I thought, I thought it was, I think, an Irish accent, if I remember. Anyway, it was, all she said was, "You're not leaving, are you?" And it was just like this longing, like, "You're not leaving, are you?" And I stopped in my tracks. I turned around. I looked back up at the window in the tower, and I said, "I'll be back. Promise you, I'll be back." And I left. All right, and long and short of it, bought the house.
Wow.
Oh, let the construction nightmares begin. Ooh.
Yeah. So, you move in. You already know at this point the house is not empty by any means.
No, but I didn't know what it was, or where it was, or how it worked. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
So you move in,
Mhm.
and how long did it take before you started seeing activity and started realizing that you had company, so to speak?
Between 2 weeks and a month
Mm.
that it started.
Mm-hmm.
When I first moved in, I sort of took the very back room. Excuse me. That was empty because, like I said, it was being run as a bed and breakfast, and there was guests, right? So I took the back room, and had a private entrance. It was easy come, easy go. It was not really hard to work around that. And it wasn't until I moved into the first floor middle bedroom, which used to be the kitchen. So that I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about the house at the time, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it started off really slowly with that sort of thing, right? And I guess it was like the house would give up its voice more than anything. Sounds were prevalent in the house, so I would hear footsteps. I would hear doors, creaking open and closing, and get up a million times, check. There's never anything, And then one night, like, I was still doing a lot of acting at that time, and I had a little can of aerosol hair mousse. And if you ever had that, it's kind of like shaving cream, but it's in a tin, right? Almost a tin can. And if you flick it like that on the side, it wouldn't go pink. It would go because of the foam inside. It's a weird sound. And one night I'm laying there in bed. I wasn't even asleep yet, and I could hear that. Bing, bing, I'm like, please stop that.
That's a calm.
A minute later, it's like starts again, right? And I'm laying there. I'm just like, I know it's fun. I get it, but I got to sleep. So please stop. And it did it again. I'm like, if you don't stop, I'm going to put it away.
It's like a
And
child. Yeah.
And then it stopped. It totally
Yeah.
stopped.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so that was sort of the first, interaction back and forth where I knew I wasn't dealing with a residual haunting. I was actually dealing with something that's intelligent.
Mm. Right.
Yeah.
And how long did it take before you realized who it was or how many there were? Like, how did that progress along?
I called you.
That's true. You did.
That's how that progressed along, because I was like,
That's true.
see, I would call Michelle and say, I'm going to Ottawa. Is there a place I can stay that's haunted? And she would hook me up. And that's how the conversations would go back and forth. She would hook me up with haunted hotels and haunted bed and breakfasts and haunted stores. And that's how it goes. So I messaged her one night and I said, okay, I got this really cool house and it's doing weird things. And do you want to come investigate it and check it out and see what you think?
And because
So
we were friends, I said yes, because I don't usually do like benign places.
No. But anyways,
Yeah.
she comes plodding in with all her equipment and stuff, and I thought this is neat. And man, it was really giving it up that night. It was really impressive, like really, really impressive. I was blown away. Like, I might look like I know a lot in this field, but I don't, and most of the stuff that I've learned from her. So, she gives me this piece of equipment called an ovulus. I never seen it before.
The
I never knew
very
what it was.
first one ever.
Yeah. She hands me this box and she goes, here, play with it for a little bit. I'm like, what do I do? You just turn it on and let it do its thing. She goes, but it's really expensive. Don't drop it.
I know.
You're giving it to me? Here, you take it back.
It's like,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
no. Anyway, she trusted me with it, and I wandered around with this thing. And it was really educational for me. Because the first thing that started happening was it started going demon, 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 demon. And I look at her and I'm just like, you want this back now? Like, you can have it back now. She's like, no, that's okay. It's from another.
It has a memory.
Yeah, don't worry about that. It's not here. I'm like, okay, I'll take your word for it. So I head upstairs while they're doing all their downstairs running cameras and cables and all the stuff that they did. And I went upstairs, and there was a whole pile of different bedrooms off the main hallway. Again, I didn't know what bedroom was what. I didn't know who was there. I had no idea about servants' quarters. I had no idea about that. The layout was completely different. The one room had carpet in it, and the rest had hardwood floors. So I walked into the middle bedroom that faced north. That was literally the first bedroom to the right off the stairwell. And that was my son Steven's bedroom. Now, he wasn't there at the time, right? And I walked in, and on the ovulus, it didn't print it, but it showed the word on the screen, but it also said it, which was kind of cool. And it said Steven, which is my son's name. I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's one hell of a coincidence. So I'm like, yeah, that's my son. And it said, where? Nah, like here. And it said where? And I'm like, where? Oh, where is he? Like, where's my son? I said, he is not here tonight. He's visiting his mother. Now, I've never heard an ovulus before this, and apparently they don't change pitch, but it changed pitch, and it went, where? And I said, he's probably 90 kilometers away from here. He's with his mom. And it was like, where? And I'm sitting there going, this is crazy. Why are you saying where over and over again? And then I'm realizing, oh, hang on, wait a minute, hold on. You are from a long time ago, this spirit. You don't probably understand divorce and separations and visitations. So I went on and I explained the situation with me, my ex, and my sons, and so forth. And the little obvious box goes, sorry. Like that. I'm like, it's okay, it happens. It's okay. So I'm walking through his room, and it says Aaron with 2 A's, which is his brother. And I said, yeah, that's my other son. And the box goes, Steven, brother? And I'm like, that's right. That's Stephen's brother. And I goes, where? And I'm like, oh, he's far, far away. He's in a town called Whitby. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's a long way from here. Oh, and it went on and on about this whole thing. It was wild. It was a really wild conversation through an ovulus. They were asking me really pointed questions and new things that I was only in the house a month, right? There's no possible way this ovulus could have a memory of my kids.
I
It
know.
was pretty crazy.
I know. And we were talking a little bit about pieces of equipment and how some of them have built-in GPS. And what I loved about this specific experience is, yes, a GPS will tell you information about the location or maybe a little bit of history, but it will not tell you anything personal. And the fact that Aaron never lived there,
Nope.
right? And the fact that the names were known, and the fact that they were showing this empathy for you
Mm-hmm. Right away.
right away was really wild. I love
It
that.
was interesting too, because when you set up cameras on the second floor,
Mm-hmm.
um, I got called up to look at the screen on this camera. They had a camera down, which was not known at the time was the servants' quarters,
Yes.
but there was one down there looking, at the bed kind of thing, and then there was another one that looked down the hallway, and then one from the stairs looking into the room across the hall.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and my partner at the time said, "You got to check this out. It's wild." Right. And so she said, okay, like, he's here now. Like, can you go past again? And this orb went past the camera from right to left. And of course I missed it because my eyes are like, trying to adjust to the dark, and
Yeah.
they're not very good to begin with. So, I said, I missed it. I'm sorry. My eyes, they need to adjust a little bit. Could you please do it again? And
Yeah.
it came back from left to right, slower and bigger.
Yeah.
And I could actually see the reflection of the orb in the polished hardwood floors. And I was like, wow. I said, you're amazing. I said, thank you so much. I said, I'm going to ask you a little favor, and this is the last thing I'm going to ask you for tonight. Would you mind just going down the hallway to the end, the room at the end, and could you please sit on the bed? And the 3 cameras picked it up, going down the hallway. It came into the room at the end. It went up the footboard, and it sat down. I was
It's
like,
crazy.
amazing. I thanked them up and down. I told them how special they were, and I really appreciated them doing that.
Yeah, and that shows like right away that you have kind spirits and that you're building a rapport. They see that you're kind
Mhm,
and that you're polite and that you have it helps to have an understanding,
mhm.
that maybe you're dealing with people from another era and that you take the time to explain things to them.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There was a. Go ahead.
I said we did come to learn, about the fact that the house did give up her voice and that the house, of course, orbs, and we're not just talking orbs, we're talking intelligence and crazy activity and movement and everything throughout the time with this house.
Yeah, yeah. It was like that first night with your team there
Mhm.
was like, to me, was mind blowing, like completely
Yeah,
mind blowing. I
yeah,
mean, it was because I was wearing at the time I was wearing a long sleeve jacket, and we were sitting at the dining room table, and one of the mediums said, "The spirit lady of the house wants to know what you have on your arm." And I look at my jacket and I'm like, I don't know, nothing. I got nothing on my arm. What are you talking about?
mhm,
And he goes, just a minute. She said it looks like a plant. And I'm like, oh, it's my tattoo,
mhm.
right? So I said, it's a tattoo. And then, it's an ink drawing, and he's asking, why would you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, I like it. It's just artwork. I like the artwork.
Mm,
And he nodded, he goes, okay, she understands now. And she's thanking you for the explanation. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Anyway,
yeah.
we got talking about the house and the renovations, and he said she doesn't like the previous owner. And he goes, "Oh no, wait a minute. She's apologizing. She says she didn't like the way he treated the house.
Mm,
That he wanted to make that very clear." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to do that. Like I'm going to repair, and I'm going to do some renovations." And he's trying to get the idea of what she's saying, and basically he looked at me, he goes, "All she's saying is please don't paint everything pink." right? So I guess it's just like, like they're not from that time period where everything's like flash, bang, boom, gauche, right? They wanted like rich, regal colors that they were familiar with. And I was like, I can do that. I can totally do that. And that's how it all started.
That's how it all began.
Yeah.
So, as you went along at that point, did anything ever feel, I don't know, did it ever feel off, or were they always really respectful? Like, did you have to have clear rules with them? Did you
Nope.
get to that? No, so you didn't have to lay down boundaries right off the hop.
Nope, not at all. They were around, but they weren't around in a nuisance kind of way. Like my tools weren't going missing, and there wasn't disturbances in the middle of the night, and there was none of that. Like nothing like that went on. And mind you, I wasn't like, in the first year, I wasn't super communicative with them either. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't like, towards the end, I would breeze in the house and be like, hey, it's me. Or I'd be having a family meeting and I'd call them to have a family meeting. It's just, but in the early days, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't, I was aware the house had spirit, but I wasn't really aware of how interactive they could be or wanted to be. I had to learn that.
Right. So it was a give and take from both sides.
For sure. 100% for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I can remember when like we were doing a big renovation on the front veranda, and it was a disaster. Like, I mean, that house, I knew it needed work. I just didn't need to know it needed everything all at once. Like the columns were collapsing, the piers underneath the veranda were collapsing. It was brutal. Like, it's just brutal. But what was interesting was when I was under the veranda, the big beams that went through. Now, when you look at a beam, a rough cut beam today, it's done with a circular saw. So you see the circular marks in the wood. The beams under that house had reciprocating saw marks. So that was cut by a really old vertical blade saw. It was very interesting to see it all. But I would lock up my tools at night, and they were under the veranda. Like, you couldn't even see them, right? And I went out for dinner that night, and the next morning I came back and the locks were all still there, and I took the locks off and everything was good. I opened the lids and all the tools were gone. So I called the police, and they said, oh, someone was watching you, man. They were watching you. Like, they knew, and they waited until you're gone. And I remember standing in the living room waiting for the insurance people to come by, and I felt the lady of the house come right up beside me. And I learned it was her over time because she had a very floral, fragrant perfume. Like, I didn't clean with anything floral. I didn't have anything floral in the house, and she stood beside me, and I could feel the upset, not anger, just like, just so upset about the whole thing. And I said, don't worry about it. And I said, you had silly people, and you had thieves and stuff in your time period too. And again, that's the first time I heard in my mind's ear this kind of like this, but you work so hard. I said, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll get new tools and we'll start again tomorrow. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But that was the empathy side of the spirit. It's beautiful.
Right. And just to reiterate, the house itself was built for her.
It was. Absolutely. It was built for her to entertain in.
Yes.
It was called Bamfield Hall. That was the Bamfields were the family name, and they had a house down the road that would later be called Bamfield Road. But she said, I want a house just for me, not for business, not for you, not for your fellows. I want a house for me to entertain in. And he goes, okay, we'll build you one.
Yeah.
So we did.
Yeah.
And they built that one, and it was called Bamfield Hall.
You can tell because the columns were smaller than the big choppy mill.
Yeah.
They
were very,
guys.
very feminine, even though it was a Gothic revival.
Yes.
And like the gingerbreading was gigantic and thick and heavy, and the tower was huge with, wrought iron on the roof and stuff. A lot of the features, like the newel post and the banister rails, they were very delicate, very, very feminine looking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was beautiful. So how did you come to learn how many spirits you had and who was who? Aside from the investigation, because we had a surprise guest upstairs.
Surprise Oh,
Weezer.
Weezer. Yeah. That was you picked up on that, but Weezer was constantly around. Yeah.
Well,
I
he
think
has
it's
the recording. It was in the
yeah, we had
recording.
the recording, but he
Yeah.
was always upstairs until that one time he was downstairs.
Yeah.
I never heard him downstairs, you know.
Yeah.
And then one day I was doing some editing, and at the door to my bedroom, you could hear like,
Yeah.
I'm like, Weezer, what are you doing downstairs? Is everything all right? And it just kind of just disappeared.
Because you never
You
knew who
know,
he was. And the
never
night
did
of
know who he was.
the night of the investigation, we had that same sort of raspy breath, and he kept touching the recorder. Like
Yeah,
you could see the curiosity
yeah.
with the recorder.
But there was the child too in Weezer's bedroom, in that middle bedroom. There
Yeah.
was the child that was sad. That really brought a tear to my eye because it was as a kid, and
Mm,
again it was on the Ovilus, so it's speaking
yeah.
through the Ovilus, and it said, "Remember Derek playing, fell, me mum sad.
Hmm.
Remember Derek playing, fell, me mum sad."
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, and I tried to look up names and deaths in the house and things like that. But if it was a neighbor's kid or a
Mm.
cousin, there'd be no record of that back then.
No, there wouldn't
Everybody
have
picked up
been.
on a maid falling down the stairs,
Hmm.
like mediums that came even after your initial investigation
Hmm.
would always look up at the top of the stairs and they'd be like, oh, someone's falling. Like it was,
There
you
was
could almost
always
set
that
your
sense.
clock by it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
it
you
was
stood at
wild.
the
But
top of the stairs, you always instinctively, like I would even instinctively grab on
yeah,
to the rail. You know, it's just like something that's there. I
yeah,
remember filming there at one time and just seeing this, you know, looking over to the main room in the front of the house and upstairs, and just seeing part of this long flowing gown that just kind of wrapped around the other way. You know,
yeah.
came in through the the room and then went to the right of the window, and you just saw this gown swooping across the floor. I did a double take. I'm like, what? Well,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right. You know, like a lot of interesting things. Question for you,
yeah.
Astrid. So is she being with her own soul and consciousness, or was she just a leftover part of a being? She's very present, not grounded.
No, it's not grounded. She came and went.
Yeah.
Like that, which leads us to like down the road a little bit when we get to that part of the story
Hmm.
of definitely not grounded because she split. She left for sure.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of stuff in that house, and when you said how many people do it, you know, it was hard at first because I knew the lady of the house was there for absolute sure.
Hmm.
There was a female child there, but I think, knowing what I know now, I think it was actually one of the girls that never grew up there because by the time they got that house built, those girls were in their early 20s.
That's true.
But I think that was a happy time in their life. So when
Hmm.
they come back in spirit form, they come back as a playful child, and that child is
Hmm.
very playful. You know,
Yeah.
I've never seen her. A lot of people have seen reflections of her in mirrors, reflections of her in the glass. We have a great picture of her looking out the back window
Hmm.
that we have. One of the guests took the picture and they sent it to me and said, you know, like, is this her? And I said, definitely is her.
Hmm.
So, you know, but
Yeah.
they were very respectful. I mean, I was having a shower one time and the door opened all by yourself when the bathroom door opens on its own. And I knew it was just a little girl. And I just poked my head out of the shower curtain and it was only open like this
Hmm.
much, right? And I just said, private time. And the
Hmm.
door just closed over.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Um, okay. Earth being as old as it is, why don't we pick up beings from 1300? We do.
we do.
Remember, well, even before that, even after that, you remember the story. There's tons of stories of spirit individuals all over the place. I mean, remember the story I told you guys about Anne Boleyn? You know, with the security guard going in and having a look at the chapel at the Tower of London, and when he looked in, he could see a full procession of lords and ladies, and you know, within the church, and they saw Anne Boleyn literally walking down along with all of them, and she's been spotted many times without her head. with a screaming, looking for her head, you know. But there's oh my God, there's so many stories about that. I mean, most of the places I've stayed in when I travel through Europe have been, you know, I purposely stay in haunted places, and you see all kinds of activity. It's just, you know, just got to look in the right place, but they're definitely there. I tend to be curious as you just don't see as many spirits from modern times.
No,
As not compared to before. I mean, were times just tougher back then?
I don't know. It depends. This woman loved this house,
Yeah.
so she's has an affection for this house, you know. But I mean, going back further, I mean that house was built in 1872, but
Mm,
it probably took 3 years to build.
mm,
But you know, I was told that there was a nurse from
mm.
the War of 1812
Yes.
that was on the property running around, and she got put up against a tree and shot for helping the wounded of the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
And I was told that, you know, she comes around if you injure yourself, you know, and
Mm,
you'll feel her. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. And I didn't feel anything. Honestly, there was like nothing, zero, nothing at all.
mm. Yeah.
And you know, I remember really, really doing myself in nice in the garage one day, and I walked out and had a real lump out of my hand. And sure enough, like just like I went from being hurt myself to like there was somebody like all over me,
Mm,
like just worried, look concerned, like, you know, looking
mm,
at it. I was like, wow, it's true. Geez. And then there was a time on the ladder when I was up on the ladder, and that's the first time I actually physically heard a voice. Because
mm,
like a year prior, someone told me that there was a treasure in the house I'm going to buy, but it
mm,
might be a kid's toy truck. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean it's gold, right?
mm.
And I was up on a ladder. I was probably 14 feet up, and in my right ear, this woman's voice said, "The house is the treasure." And it was so real that I actually looked, and then I looked down, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Whoa, that was trippy, so trippy."
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, I remember hearing sounds and voices all the time. Honestly, I thought I heard a male voice one time. I thought it was you. I remember just standing there and watching like the dining room door open, and then Rob was there. He was
yeah.
Wayne's friend, and we just looked at each other and went,
Hmm.
that's a
The thing
thing."
you gotta explain too is
Yeah,
that door you're talking about was a
should have been
fire
there.
door on an automatic closer.
Yes,
So
that's
it
true.
can't just swing open. It doesn't. It stays shut all the time. And
Yes.
like,
Yeah, and we just kind of looked at each other and went, "All right then." So yeah,
yeah,
it was not uncommon to have things like that happen. Now, again, we find out over time, you know, that there were other spirits there for sure.
yeah,
Um, do you have you know, just get into some random things before we start getting into heavy things.
yeah.
What's the most memorable thing that's happened to you while you were there?
The most memorable.
Yeah.
Like good memorable or bad memorable?
We'll start with good memorable.
Good memorable. Um, it was for me. It was always a learning curve. Like it
Yeah.
was a learning curve on how to how to be in there. Like first
Mhm.
of all, I didn't know the layout of the house, so you know, I always knew that if you're going to do renovations in a house, you know, I knew the place had spirits, so I might as well involve them. So I would say, hey, I wouldn't be like, oh, hey, yo, you know, I
Yeah.
would talk to them like, Mr. and Mrs. Banfield, would you please come to the parlor? I'd like to have a conversation with you
Mhm.
about the work I'm going to be doing in the dining room. And I
Right.
would wait, not long, you know, minute, 2 minutes. Sometimes I would feel them come in. Sometimes I wouldn't feel them come in. And then I would just go through the motions of explaining, just like I would be explaining to a homeowner, look, I'm going to tear the ceiling of your house out.
Mhm.
You know, I'm going to fix it, but I've got to tear it all out because it's falling down. You know, it's going to be a big mess, but don't worry, I'm going to put it all back. It'll be fine.
Mhm.
And I found that by doing that, there was a comfortable ease of work in the house. The air didn't feel heavy. I wasn't always second guessing. Did I measure that right? Did I do this right? You know, everything's kind of flowed smoothly by doing that. You
Mhm.
know, I found she was very receptive. Initially I'd made a mistake on the gentleman in the house. Originally, I thought the gentleman in the house was her husband, who would have been James Banfield. But everybody in that family was named James or John.
Mm.
So it became increasingly hard to figure out who you're talking to. But I figured out pretty quickly that when they said James, they meant James Jr., his son.
Hmm.
Because James Sr. died 10 years after building that house. And James Jr. took it over.
Hmm.
Right? So he looked after it. And there was a picture of him in the front hallway. And one of our guests that came to visit, basically, she said the guy at the top of the stairs came right down the stairs, came to me, pointed at that picture and said, "That's me." I thought that was pretty neat. But he was a staunch old bugger. Oh, man, he was a business guy through and through. And
Right.
like, I would be talking to him about stuff. And all I would ever get from this guy is, "Where's your people?" Like,
I
why
am
are
my
you doing all
people.
this? I know,
Yeah.
like he just couldn't get it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
why are
Right.
you like slinging plaster and painting and climbing
Yeah.
up ladders and putting in floors? Like, I don't understand you. You're crazy. You know,
Right.
like it was always,
Right.
"Where's your people? Where's your people?" And
Yeah.
one day I was jamming with the family and sort of saying, like, do you guys have any hidden loot? Like, this is getting expensive. Like, if you've got some hidden money hanging around, like I would really appreciate the help. And I could literally feel him stand up and walk out of the room.
Ooh.
Yeah. No. The only time that changed, the relationship between him and I changed dramatically, was where the old kitchen was. He made that into his office.
Mm-hmm.
And the layout of the whole house didn't make any sense. And we used a pendulum, we meaning you, used a pendulum to get the answers of what I was looking for. So I would say, "Is this how it was? Is this how it was?" And we get yes or no answers. It was perfect because it was exactly the way I figured it was, but the layout had been completely changed. So we took it back the way it should have been. Like, not with the original kitchen, because that was dumb, because the kitchen was huge and we didn't want to do that. So I made that back into like his office kind of thing. But when I tore that whole wall out and that whole ceiling out, they had brought in a construction crew somewhere around 1887 to put in the boiler and to put in the radiators, because up till that time there was just fireplaces everywhere, coal fires in every room. So it was a big undertaking. Now this house would have been built before like the quote building codes. So you had these huge beams and huge, rooms with no support, but they didn't need them because you had 14-inch by 3-inch beams. Anyway, when I tore this out, there was if you can picture like a 6x6 piece of hemlock that was 16 feet long that went right across the dining room that was a load bearing wall. And somebody chopped a big hole right through that. So they could take a heating duct structure that sat above the boiler up to the second floor, and then it fanned out like this, and it went through the floors. So you actually had heated floors in that house on the second floor. It was amazing, but they cut right through that beam, and that whole second floor was coming down. I mean, I don't even know how it stayed up the 100 years it was up since they cut it. I'll be honest. And I remember looking at that, and I felt him. I felt him right there looking at that. And I think he felt pretty embarrassed, and I just talked to him really gently. I said, "Look, Mr. Banfield, you are in insurance, you're a banker, you don't know about timber. You hired guys to do that. You hired a guy or a group of guys that said they knew what they were doing, right? You can't blame yourself for that, but I will fix it." After that, he wasn't so staunch with me.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit of essentially, keeping your spirit family in the loop. And there's this reciprocating kind of relationship going on. And then they started to become very helpful, like the night of the alarm and such.
Yeah, that was interesting. My son was still living with me at the time, and we would go to bed fairly late. And I just sort of got into bed, and the fire alarm went off. Now again, it was the bed and breakfast, right? So we had proper, it wasn't just smoke detectors. They were like, beep, all the lights come on, and it is crazy. So get up, go over and look, and can't see what it is. My son looks over the banister down. He's like, "What's going on?" Like, just check all the rooms. Look for the light that's flashing. There'll be a green light on every one. If it's flashing, that's the problem child.
Right.
So he went all around. I went down the basement. I checked everything. There was nothing. Nothing.
Mm.
Zero. I'm like, okay, well, came back up. He's like, no, there's nothing up here. I said, nothing down here either.
But
And then
yet
it
people were
stopped.
calling you and you thought he was calling
Well, that
you
was the
and you
second
thought he was,
time.
oh, that was a different time. Okay. Yeah.
No, it's the same time. But I mean,
Yeah.
I said, okay,
Different
it's
event.
shut off. So I said, I'll
Yeah.
check it in the morning. So I literally, my butt sat on the mattress and boop, away we go again, right?
Mhm.
So I come out of the room. Now I'm irritated, you know.
Mm.
And he's coming down the stairs. He's like, what's going on, man? I'm just like, we got to check everything. Check everything. I check the windows, check everything. There might be a campfire somewhere that's just breezing in through the window. Like, check everything. I'm going outside. I'm going to walk around, right?
Mm. Yeah.
He did that. I did that. I came in the front door. And as I came in the front door, I heard his voice go, hey, Dad. Like that. And I went, yes, what is it? And there was no answer. So I start walking through the house. I'm like, where are you? Hello, Stephen, where are you? Where are you? So he comes walking through the kitchen. He's like, yeah, what do you want? What did you find? And I'm like, nothing. What did you want? He's like, nothing. I didn't call you. I said, yes, you did. He goes, no, you called me. And I'm like, I never called you. What are you talking about? You know, and this conversation went back and forth. I went, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
My son never calls me dad. Ever. Right? And he looked at me. He says to me, he goes, yeah. He says, you called me Stephen. He says, you never called me Stephen. I'm like, yeah, not interesting. He goes, okay, dude. He goes, this is one of these ghostly things are going on. I'm like, I'm thinking it is. I go, without thinking about it, what do you think the problem is? He goes, I'm thinking that the people that stole your tools have waited a couple of weeks and they're now snooping around to see if you got new tools. And the spirits are letting you know that there's somebody on the property. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking the same.
Right.
I am thinking the same.
So they became very, very helpful. It's not the first time I've heard this kind, of a thing. I've heard people say to me that people have tried to enter their premises and the spirits of their home literally just went off and scared them off. Or if fire in the house or smoke, the spirits would wake the family up, or one of the animals in distress, the spirits would make the family aware that one of your animals is in distress. I've heard so many incredible stories, that it just lends to reason that, I don't know, you can actually coexist quite nicely. I mean, when I moved in, it was just a matter of, you always felt them around. But it wasn't always like that. You used to say that they used to take off for a while, and then maybe you've come to realize maybe why.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, let's kind of get into that. So early days, you figured that, they would just maybe go off to their summer home or something. What were your thoughts initially?
Well, it was because it was again, I go back to like what you were talking about on the show last night when you were saying like, how do people recognize the signs in their house?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're not all experts. Like, we're not all privy to all the equipment and who to call and how to do background checks on the house and this and that and the other. How do you realize? Because I certainly didn't. I did not realize there was a problem afoot. And it was November, end of October, early November. And, the temperature's dropping here in Canada. It gets cold, right? So the temperature's dropping off. And I was there on my own at this point. My son was in school, so he'd moved. So big house, me, the cat. It's how it was, right? I didn't care. It was good. I had enough work to keep me busy. But it got really quiet in the house. And the only way I could describe it to someone is if you have a house full of kids and they go back to school in September, that kind of quiet. You're used to a whole summer of hubbub and noise and a racket going on in the background. And then on September the 8th, it's dead quiet. And you're just like looking for it. Like, where are they? What are they up to? That's what it felt like to me. And I just put it down to like, maybe they went to one of their other houses. I knew they weren't stuck. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they just, maybe they have a house in Florida or something. Maybe they just leave. They don't like the cold. I don't blame them. And I didn't even think about it. Nothing. It's a big old house and the house is cold. but there's no insulation in the house. It's just big brick house. So I would be turning the heat up, and I'm just like, wow, what's really cold in here? I don't get it. I'm not
Cluing
getting
in.
it. Really not getting
Yeah.
it. My friendly spirits are like gone, and the house is like it's dropping down. I mean, I'm not seeing my breath or anything like that, right? So I am just, Captain Logical, right? It's a cold night. I don't think anything of it, right? And then that bad thing happened. It was really bad. So I went to bed, and I don't know what time it was. I woke up to my cat Sean, who was a stray. He was a stray cat that I pulled in the house and rescued, and he a beautiful little guy, but he had no voice. And the vet said he probably won't ever meow or make a sound because he's eaten so much garbage in his life, like dirt and rocks and leaves, just trying to survive, that his throat's all torn up, and he probably won't ever make a sound. So I woke up in the middle of the night in my dark room, and this cat is on the end of the bed going
making all kinds of noises. Yeah,
all kinds of noise this cat was making, and I was just like, okay, all right, he's making noise. Obviously something's got his attention. So I went instinctively to reach for him to settle him down. I couldn't move.
Yeah,
I couldn't move at all. I was pinned on my back in the bed, and I'm thinking, okay, relax. It's just, you had a start, you woke up quick, and you got that sleep paralyzation type of thing going on.
Paralysis. Yeah.
And I'm just like, all right, let's just work through it. He's blowing a gasket at the end of the bed. I can't move. And I realized I can't really breathe either. I can't take a breath. I went to say like, hey, Sean, like, take a pill, right? You're okay, right? And I couldn't talk. And I moved my head like that to look to my left. And that's when I saw like that age-old, paranormal television show, Darker Than Dark. And I used to laugh at it because if you're in a dark room, how can it be darker than dark? Well, eating crow, I did. And it was darker than dark. It really was. And it, like, the ceilings in that house were about 10 feet on the first floor. And they had huge crown moldings. And this thing filled that entire corner of my bedroom. And I was like, whew, man, that's big. And now I was really upset. I can't breathe. The cat's freaking out and I can't move. So I basically, remembered what you said. You just got to move one finger or yell or something.
Anything.
And I did.
Yeah.
And I threw a bunch of expletives, shall we say. And I sat up in bed with a big roar of nasty. And, I got out of bed, and the cat jumped off the bed, and the cat went flying out through the ensuite into the kitchen. And I walked out there, and he's standing in the kitchen like he's just like a spine fish, you know what I mean? And he's down there, he's looking between my feet back into that room, and he's just fangs and just freaking out. So I'm not feeling the best at that point. I'm cold, I'm shivery, I don't feel great, but I've got to go check it out. It's my space, and Michelle's like, don't challenge them, but don't get pushed around either. Right. So I walk back in, and I'm just talking to the house now. I don't know what I'm dealing with, but I'm just like, whatever you are, you're not welcome. You're not invited. This is my house, my space. Get out. And I'm very firm. I'm not screaming or yelling or anything like that, but I am firm. And I walk around. I have this big canopy bed in there, and I walk around the end of the bed. And on one of the crown moldings behind the bed, I saw like a flutter. And at that, back then, in that fall, we had those great big huge moths, big beautiful moths. And that's what my mind thought it was, right? Immediately I thought okay, that's a moth. And I looked up at it, and as I sort of focused in on the sort of the dim light, I mean, I had the light from the hallway on now, it wasn't pitch black anymore. And if you could picture like two red grapefruits, size red grapefruits, side by side, like that. And I looked up, and that's what they were. And there was two black lines in the middle of those red grapefruits, and they blinked really slow. And I can't even tell you what went through my mind other than that, oh my God, whatever it is, it's looking at me and it can see me. I couldn't, my brain just could not function on what I was looking at. It's like a disembodied pair of gigantic eyes. I was just like, get the bleep out of my house. And it was like, they were gone, right?
Yeah.
And oh man, I was rattled. I was just rattled. Like I'm, even as I tell you this story, the hairs on my arms are standing up. So I walked out and I'm just like, get out, stay out, get out, stay out. And I picked the cat up. Cat's on my shoulder. He's like, don't take me back in that room. I grabbed my phone and stuff and went to the parlor and sat in the parlor and called my bestie. Right? She said, if you ever have a problem, give me a shout. So I'm texting like like this, right? I got a real problem. Nothing, no response. I text about 4 times, nothing. So it's like by this time it's just after 3, and I hate doing this. I'm gonna have to call you, right? So I phone. I get the hi. I can't take your call right now, but your call is important to us. Please leave a message after the tone. I will get back to you as soon as possible. It's me. There's shit going down, man.
Yeah, it was bad. But it was the typical thing, you know, like they don't let you get in touch with anybody. The phone never rang. I never got a text. The next morning, all these messages came in and the bing, 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 bing. And I'm just going, what the hell happened? Like, what's going on? And that's when all your messages came in. Hours later.
Yeah, me and the cat sat there. The cat and I sat there in that chair in the parlor, and we watched the sun come up. My back was against the wall right in the corner of that room.
Yeah.
And the cat was with me, and I'm like, we're not moving until the sun comes up, brother.
That's it.
And he's like, good. I'm good with that.
Yeah. But he's actually like seen things in the house before.
Oh yeah. Well,
that seemed to alert him a bit, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I said in that show last night.
Yeah.
Like he was playing in the dining room. I was in the kitchen. I was making lunch or whatever, and I could hear him thumping around in there. He had one of those little
toy
woven toy mouse, you know. He batted all over the place, rolling around his back and stuff. And I looked at him. He's cute, you know. And he all of a sudden he just stops, you know, and he looks down the hallway. I was like, yeah, that's a typical cat, right? You know, he's possessive, right? You know, and all of a sudden he leaves the mouse and he stands up. And he turns sideways to me and he looks at me and he fluffs up real big, right? And he does this with his head.
Looks like, behind you.
Like past me, but you got it behind me is a brick wall. It's the back of the house and it's just exposed brick. And he looks at me, gone, straight up the stairs and gone. I'm just like, not unnerving at all. I feel good now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Cat.
Thanks for that, Cat.
Yeah, exactly. But we did end up getting, you know, the house was easy. It cleared the house pretty instantly at that point. And, you know, wasn't the first, wasn't the last.
No, but that was the worst one.
Yeah.
That was like what you called a drive-by. It wasn't a resident.
Wandered.
Wasn't a resident demon.
But what was interesting is upon getting rid of it, the family returned
immediately within the next day. Like it was back to the regular, what I call the hubbub. You know, footsteps on the stairs, the doors opening and closing.
The family was back.
Like distant chatter, you know, talking and things like that, right? So I mean, they were very respectful. I mean, I remember one night I was editing. I think it was book number 2. And I was in bed on the first floor, which is right off the dining room. And I could hear a conversation between 3 guys. And it started off like, and I'm just like, hey, knock it off. Someone's got to work here. And you know, then you hear like,
right.
You have an entire veranda. It's a beautiful night. Have a cigar on the veranda. I'm working. And you literally hear like, and you hear
weird.
And they went outside.
So, I mean, you're totally dealing with intelligence, you know, energy for sure. Like it's not, you know, a residual replay. I mean, this is something that's just always things happening. Oh, sounds yummy, Annette.
I
So
think the one, can I just tell you the one with my son Steve? Because that was a wild one too.
of course you can. Yeah.
We were sitting in the parlor,
Mm.
and we were sitting kitty corner. So he was in one corner, I'm in the other corner, and I had this huge mirror that went across the back of the couch, and it was pretty nice. And so he was sitting there, and we were actually jamming about, like, he wanted to become either a director or a playwright, right? So, and of course, I was writing full time at the time, so we were just jamming about that. And I was telling him where I wanted to go with my story, and he was just like, "Can't write that, dude." Well, I'm going to write it. He goes, "Man, they're going to be burning crosses on your front lawn." I'm like, "I don't care. It's a good story. It's where it's got to go, right? This is why it's got to go this way." And we were laughing. He had a hot chocolate, I had a tea, and we were just having a really good evening, and so he was looking dead at me, and all of a sudden he did that, like, as if like something caught his attention, like behind me and to my left, and he looked for a second, and then he leaned forward and he looked that way in the opposite direction, right? And then, like, his eyes got really big, and he looked back at the mirror and he went, "Oh my God," like this. And I was like, "What is wrong with you? Like, you're going to give me the heaves. Like, what are you doing?" Right? And he's just like, "Oh my God." And he stood up and he was shaking it all off. He's like, "I saw a woman in the mirror." What'd she look like? He goes, "She had one of those round, like a pillbox hat, but she said he had the mesh that came down just over her upper face, just the mesh, right?" And he said, for a split second, just to bring everybody up to speed, I have this mannequin named Molly that I move around the house for security. I use her at Halloween and stuff like that, and I dress her up and put her in different windows and stuff. It's fun.
And people think that somebody's actually watching them.
Yeah, someone's actually looking out the window all the time.
Yeah.
It's a great security thing. I love her. Anyway, so he thought, I used to put her in the parlor with a glass of wine leaning against the fireplace, and the guests would come in and freak out. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, he said, "I thought for the splittest second that you had put Molly in the other corner." So that's why I leaned forward to look past the fireplace, and there was no one there. And he goes, "My mind's like, there should be somebody there because I just saw one in the mirror." And he goes, "That's when I looked back at the mirror and I could see her blink, close her eyes, and look at me." And he goes, "That's when I jumped up." And then she disappeared, and the mirror looked like water, like it rippled, like the glass rippled. There was no other mirror in the room. It wasn't like it was a portal or anything like that. But it was like, he's like me. He says he's not gifted, but that kid, man, that kid could pick up stuff. It's just freaky deaky.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience.
It was, yeah.
But again, the house just gave that stuff up fairly easily.
Yeah.
And a lot of spirits just gravitated to the house as well, because there were often
a lot of strangers.
Yeah, a lot of them coming in and out, and
yeah,
having to get rid of some. But I liked how they interacted, because look, when you found the doorway that you thought was there behind all this plaster lath, and you're thinking, I don't want to just rip the door down. And again, the spirits basically showed you it was there, so you knew you broke through the wall, and there it was, this beautiful door with this beautiful, like, just
the ornate woodwork all around the frame.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was
stunning.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So, not uncommon, but I like in keeping with the consideration, because I remember when I was doing large events at a certain castle, I would come in every night, and I would go up to to Sir Henry, man of the house, and I would basically fill him in, businessman. It's okay, this evening we're expecting this many people, and this is where we're going to start. We're going to meet here. We're going to start here. We're going to split. You're going to see people come over here. We're going to go down over here. Tours should take roughly this amount of time, blah, 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 blah. And I would let the other spirits, because we knew where the spirits were, the resident spirits, where they were all hanging around. And, just say, if you'd like to come in and mingle with everyone, please feel free. It will be well received. If you don't, that's okay too. Never an obligation. And this is the same thing that you always said, like when we were doing film projects at the house. Like the first time I filmed in a house. I mean, I'll go back to the castle for a second. Many people got incredible experiences, and I think a lot of it had to do with just being informed and letting people know what was going on because they were there all the time. But getting back to the manor, I remember when I filmed there, on my own the one time, and then I left, and you came home like all the lights are on. Did you leave them on? I'm like, what? I'm a crazy person when it comes to locking everything and shutting everything down. And
Yeah. Well, I was on the phone and I said, I'm looking up at the master bedroom in the front, and I said, the light's on. And you're like, I didn't leave lights on. And all of a sudden it went off and there was nobody home.
I know. It's like,
it was great. I'm like, never mind. It's okay. They took care of it.
I know. It was crazy. It was crazy.
It's fine.
But we would always let the spirits know, even then at that point, okay, film crew coming. This is what's happening. If you want to partake and go and socialize, you can. And I remember the one show where they were all, filming and running around upstairs and having a good time, and coins were dropping from the ceiling.
Yeah.
All kinds of crazy stuff was happening. That things that house never did before.
Right. Yeah, we never got coins, but the sound guy was so frustrated because like they'd be talking and you hear like bing, 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 bing. And he was like, okay, no, stop throwing coins. Yeah. And at one point, the two guys are standing side by side in the long hallway on the second floor. And
they captured it.
Yeah, they're filming in night vision, and you see the dime fall right between them, and it's like twinkling as it goes by, right?
Yeah.
So they were just like, oh, we got it on film. And they're all looking up at the ceiling, which is solid plaster. There's no possible way anybody's dropping a dime from there.
No, but obviously
it was wild.
The spirits liked them. And then the one guy said that he goes, there was something walking outside in the hallway all night outside of his room.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they all went out. Remember that one night? They all went out to get food.
Yeah.
Right. And the one guy stayed behind, the younger guy. And you could hear like heavy boots on the second floor walk from one end to the other. And I said, was one of the guys still up there? And he goes, I don't think so. And we went and looked, and there was nobody up there. No one at all.
No. It was crazy. They were checking out everything.
Yeah.
And in the same respect, this is how we get into spirits that follow you home. And how do you know if it's good or bad?
Yeah.
So how many times where, we were, at an investigation or we were filming somewhere and we'd come back and then things would follow back.
So before we get into that, I just want to make a mention too of just, again, being respectful of the spirit. I had a couple come and stay at the house and I didn't know very much about them, but she turned out to be quite gifted. And that's when Rob was still living there. And she came to see me and she said, I hate to bother you, but there's a woman in our room sitting on the end of the bed, and she says it's her room. I'm like, oh. And she was in what we now know to be the servants' quarters. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I'll go talk to her. So Rob and I went up, and I can't see spirit. So I just went in and said, hi, excuse me. I know this is your room. I'm really sorry, but we have guests here and we're packed. We have nowhere else to go. I said, but what I could ask you to do, if you could please go downstairs into the garage, which was not the garage anymore. It was actually the living room. Yeah. And I said, if you can go down there, we've set up a space for you down there. You can sleep on the couch. There's blankets and pillows there. And you could hear the bed spring creak. You could hear the footsteps go across the floor to a staircase that was completely boarded up. You could hear the door unlatch. That's not there. And you could hear it close, and you could hear her footfall go down those stairs. And my buddy Rob was just like, did you hear what I just heard? Did you hear that? I'm never going to sleep a wink tonight.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful.
Very, very interactive. It was just really, they were just wonderful. And the next morning when they left, I went into that room and I said, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate what you did. Your sacrifice was really appreciated. You can have your room back.
Yeah, I thought it was lovely. They were lovely spirit people. Astra says, do you think spirits think that we're spirits to them?
Don't know. Yeah. That I don't know.
It's hard to know what they're all thinking. I could tell you that there are times where, you can have spirits who were in this, in the same household, who are both passed. They never cross each other's paths, yet they both lived there, died different times. I'll give you an example. When I was at a location, working with a family, there was a mother and a child, and they both actually died at the same time. And the mother was looking for the child and could never find the child, and the child was just looking for the mother. So, do they think that we're spirits? It reminds me of the time when I was in Egypt. When you talk about like spirits from yesteryear, and that spirit looked at me and I said, I'm trying to delicately explain to the spirit that it's deceased and maybe you may want to, consider moving on. And basically just said, you're dead. And, that's the sort of right at me, the feeling that I got, because I was taken aback and kind of going, maybe. Like, it makes you think. It's very, I mean, it's very possible, but we have, filmed at locations. We have, times where I've gone to, set up investigations where we've had to go. And there's one specifically where we did in the city. And, I mean, it visited me before we even went. And it was just like, okay, here we go. So after the fact, though, it came to you.
Yeah, it came to me. Yeah, it was. I thought you were talking about the one in Welland, but we can
No,
talk about
not
that
that
one
one.
afterwards.
Yeah.
That was wild because it was a knocker,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd finished it and gone home and gone our
Mm-hmm.
separate ways, and I was getting ready for bed.
Mm-hmm.
And out in the hallway, you could hear the
Yeah.
knock, right? And I'm like, I just start laughing, right?
You
'Cause
have to just,
I'm not going to give it to it, right?
shrug it
I'm just
off.
not going to, right?
Yeah.
So I text Michelle and I'm just like, hey, I think your friend or our friend is out in the hallway outside my bedroom, and she's like, oh yeah? I said, yeah. And then on the headboard of my bed behind me, because I'm sitting on the bed, I hear I'm like, never mind, it's in the bedroom now. And she said, hang tight, I'm gonna get rid of it. And she did. So it was great. But yeah, they tag on. They'll
Yeah.
grab on and hitch a ride for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It was the same one. It was always the knocking in the three.
Yeah.
And I got that before we left, the knocking. And, one thing I've learned in the couple of decades of doing this, was just don't give it to it. It's not that you don't fear it. You just don't give up your power. Right. So I just, walked out of my ensuite, grabbed my purse, and I said, I'll see you in an hour, mister. And then I just kept going. And that was the end of that. And sure enough, like when we got there and we were doing, the walkabout, as I call it, and you're recording. And when we play back that recording, there was something like you're talking to me and I'm responding, and you just got this grunting, growling going on at the same time. And we knew you can sense it. So where I'm going with this, of course, is, having had that experience at your place and having had that experience in the various locations that, that I brought you to. Anyway,
Yep. Throw them to the wolves. Throw them to the wolves.
But you know what that feeling is like. So now it's easy for you to say, yeah, I know what that feeling is like. But going back to the time where you didn't, what would you say to people? Like, how can you tell the difference between, something fairly benign? Like, I'm not talking about a layman. I'm not talking about somebody who's just, well, that's a no-brainer, who may, I'm not talking about the paranormal peeps who have an understanding. I mean, for somebody who's just innocently moving to a place and wondering what's there,
I mean,
you know.
we all have a gut feeling, which is it's hard to quantify because people tell me, well, I want evidence. Well, what am I going to tell you? It feels wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they want a photograph, they want a recording
Yeah.
of everything, And I said, well, what am I going to tell you? My stomach tells me it's wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
it's literally like that.
Right.
Like I know when I was in that house, when the family was there, because it just felt nice.
Mm-hmm.
It felt what I would call normal, right? And when they left, it felt abnormal. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel right. Just didn't feel good. mean, I went to a place when I was working for the phone company. I went to this big old house in downtown Toronto.
Oh, that's a good
And
story. Yeah.
yeah, and it was like, it's,
Yeah.
it's, I'm at work, right? Like, if you get, I'm a installation repair technician,
Hmm.
and I'm also training a guy, right? So there's a lot of pressure, and you don't muck around in a customer's house. You just don't. There's a professional way to be, and you're expected to conduct yourself accordingly.
Hmm.
Anyway, it was a massive, massive house, and it was old, and it was just a mansion, beautiful, beautiful place. And they wanted a phone put in this one room, so we went down the basement. We looked, and it was wide open basement. And it looks like there was rooms off the main corridor, but they were all open. There's no doors. It was looked like coal cellars and things like that. It was all white, beautiful white painted, you know, and the wire that we put in, it actually went down behind an extension they'd put on the house. That's why we couldn't find it originally. Anyway, I found it, and this guy who I was working with, he was looking too, and he had his flashlight, and he was going into all these different rooms looking for this wire, because this house is massive. You get turned around real quick. Anyway, I turned around to tell him that I found the wire, and he did this funky little maneuver. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you doing a dance or something? Like, you happy? And he looked at me, and the color just dropped, right? And he dropped his stuff, and he ran up the stairs, and he ran across across the floor, and I could hear the door go, and I'm just like, oh my God, no, what's right in front of the customer? This is going to be good. So I go upstairs, and she's there, and she's an older woman, and she's like, oh, your friend just left. Is he all right? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to find out. And I go outside, and he's at our truck, and he's like throwing up, and he's crying. He's just like, I'm not going back in that house, man. I'm like, what's wrong with you? I'm not going back in that house, man. I said, I didn't ask that. I mean, what's wrong with you? Like, did you bad lunch? Like, what's up with you? Like, he's like, I'm not going back in the house. So I got him in the truck, and I gave him like water and stuff. I'm like, just don't puke in my truck, okay? Just don't. Anyway, I went back in, and she's like, is he okay? I said, I think he got a bad lunch or something. He's all right. I'll finish it up. You're fine. So I go back downstairs. Now it's cold. I mean, that's the room I can see my breath in. It's just, June or July day, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. This is my infant days of ghostly encounters. Like, it was really probably my first real one. So I went, and I hooked everything up, and I picked up all his stuff. Everything was done. And I picked up his flashlight, and I shone it in the room that he was trying to go into. I couldn't see anything. And I guess these are powerful flashlights. So I walked the edge of the door, and I shone it in, and I should be able to see the wall on the other side. I didn't see nothing. So I put the flashlight on the floor, and I took it across the floor, and as it went into the room, it just wasn't there. It's like it just extinguished the light. Freaky. So I went to the edge of the door, and I went to just sort of like to just lean in a little bit. And I felt, as much as I heard like fingers like this go on my chest. Solid, right? I was a young guy back then. I had a bit of muscle on me back then, not like now. Anyway, I'm just like, wow, that was solid. I looked down, I could see like fingerprints in my shirt. And I'm like, good grief, hey, look at you. That's pretty cool. How strong are you? I pushed into it like this, and it went, and it launched me backwards like I was a feather. And the smell.
That's a challenge.
I could taste it. Oh, I was like, oh, it was in my sinuses. It was in my throat. I was like, I almost lost my balance and fell. Anyway, I picked up all my stuff, and I walked upstairs, and she signed off on the paperwork. I said, everything's good to go. You're fine. And she said, well, tell your friend. I hope he feels better. I'm like, oh, I'll tell him for sure. I got back in the truck. He's like, what did you find? What'd you find? I'm like, we are never going back in that house, ever are we going back in that house. And I worked with that guy for the next probably 25 years, but not together. Like, we were in different divisions, but sometimes our paths would cross. And literally, as soon as he would see me, he goes, hey, Wayne, buddy. And he would just go totally stoic. He goes, dude, do you remember that place? Seriously, do you remember that house?
So
It stayed with him.
I guess so. You factor that in. How do you think those people lived with something like that?
I have no idea. Like I told you, it was a freaky house to begin with because when I got there, this guy who was probably 50-ish,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like the, you know, nice outfit, nice suit, you know, a little bit of a receding hairline, you know, and he goes, "Oh, you must be the phone technicians." I'm like, "Yes, I am." Like not the bell guys, like
Mm-hmm.
not the phone dudes, like
It's proper.
telephone technicians. Like, yeah, that's us. He's like, "Please come in, I'll get mother." Oh, you'll get mother. Okay. Yeah, this is gonna be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, like she comes out, he wheels her out in one of those tall wicker wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, it's a movie, right? Like it's a crazy movie, right? They had the red velvet curtains and all the
Yeah.
taxidermy heads and stuff, and
Nice. Like our
it's like
house.
I stepped back in time. It was like amazing until I
Yeah.
got into that basement, and that basement was a freak show.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it was doing there. I don't know what it was, why it was there. If it
Mm-hmm.
was confined to that room, I have no idea. None at all.
It'd be such a curiosity. I have to get the address. Tap in.
No,
Like,
I could look it up for you right now. I can tell
yeah.
you exactly where it is.
Yeah, do it. Not right
Yeah.
now, but after the
No,
show.
after the show.
That's very interesting. So I mean, knowing how that felt, you've never
Haha.
felt anything like that, like in the house per se.
No,
Like nothing's ever, like ever.
no,
Even through
no,
your sleep paralysis, that whole experience didn't feel like that.
no,
Wow.
no.
So that makes it really interesting. That's
That thing
like
was in my face and it was powerful.
you challenged it though.
Well, like I had finger pressed into my shirt. I could
Yeah.
see the indentations in my shirt.
Yeah. But you
I could
challenged it.
feel
Like,
it.
how strong are you?
How
You know?
strong are you? And I
Yeah.
just leaned, and he said, "I'm this strong. I'll throw you right across the room." And he did.
Wow.
It did. She did. It did. My headset's down to 4%, so if I cut out, I'll just have to talk. And hopefully, there's no
Yeah,
echo.
we're done in shortly. So
I was letting you know.
yeah, go as long as you can.
I shall.
Yeah, that is insane. That is
Yeah.
insane. Um, Rochelle says my siblings actually all call our mother.
Yeah.
My grandson calls his mother as well.
Yeah, but she's not 50 years old in a wheelchair.
No.
It was like it was at Norman Bates' house. You know what I'm saying? It was
Yes,
just freaky deaky.
crazy. And that said, what was the smell?
Oh, I can't even describe it. Oh,
Was sewage? Was it excrement? Like was it rotten eggs? Was it what is it? Decaying body? Like
I never smelled. Like, yeah, you know what roadkill smells like? It's been in the sun.
Oh.
You know, like you walk through the forest and you can smell like dead things.
Yeah.
Like that. Like dead things.
Well,
but it was more, it was almost more liquid than smell. You know what I mean? Like I could taste this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was like somebody gave me a mouthful of like nasty. It was just insane.
Yeah, right. I remember working for this cleanup company, being brought in. They were a group of people who they were. What had happened is they'd gone to this one place in the city, and something followed them back. Things were going on, so they decided, okay, reach out, figure out what's going on, like because this happens every now and then, and we were asked to go to a couple of these places because what they did is this is what they, if you had a rancid place, a tenant's destroyed, these guys would go in. If you had somebody pass away in the home, these guys would come in. They would clean up after all of that. So I got to firsthand know what it's like because there was still something very present physically on the one occasion where I had been there. And after 2 weeks, there wasn't much left, but aside from what was still there. But when the coroner clears it, then, they send in these guys. Anyway, one of those times, not a dead body, but I wanted to make the reference, like I understand what that smell is. It was just an apartment, a regular apartment. People moving out, left it in a bit of a state. Therefore, they were brought in to clean it. They said, can you come in? You need to see this. I'm like, okay. So we go in. and my colleague and I at the time. Well, there was a huge pentagram on one of the floors and chains coming down from the ceiling down to the center of the pentagram. Right? That's what we said. We looked at that and went, ah, all right. And the small apartment literally was the heaviness in there and the odors and everything else. And the guy said, every time we start working, there's just something there, and you're being watched, and they're constant, like right up to you. Literally, you could feel it, that cold and that heaviness. And I said, are you getting any odors? Or like from afar, it doesn't get right in front of us at that point, but it was really brutal. So we had to, clear the place so they could go on and, finish their job. So it makes you like wonder like how much is actually really out there. There's so much of it. Whatever this thing was, it had all the traditional, the smells, the scratching, the knocking, the chains and the pentagram was a dead giveaway, I think. But it was just like, but apparently the young man who lived there, very normal. When you talk to the landlords, it was like, oh no, this is a really nice guy. He'd been here for a year. He goes, then he slowly started like losing his faculties. And I'm like, well, there's a reason that you're losing your faculties. Right?
Was that there before or after?
It wouldn't have been there before because the cleanup people, goes every time we rent out a place, it gets cleaned up thoroughly. Right?
Yeah.
So
can you hear me okay now? Because I lost it.
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. I hear you. So that was that. Yeah. Sometimes sulfur smell. Absolutely. For sure. So
but again, like before I met you, like someone would say, oh, it's a sulfur smell. Couldn't tell you what sulfur smells like. Wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Telling somebody who's just moved into the house, does your house smell like sulfur? I wouldn't know. I honestly wouldn't know.
But what's weird about that is the same things happen through alien visitation and abductions. Sulfur smell, the flash of lights that go across, the sometimes, whatever, knocking, all the traditional sleep paralysis, shadow people, orbs, everything that happens during a malevolent encounter happens there. I'm getting feedback. And that's okay. And we did have extraterrestrial activity there as well. And it says matches and fireworks are sulfur smell.
Oh, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know. So advice as we get ready to sign off in the next few minutes, advice to anybody who's thinking about buying a haunted house. What's your advice to them? Putting aside fear and just,
Again, I say go with your gut. Like if you're walking through the house and you're apprehensive about the whole thing, that's your first sign that maybe this isn't right for you. But if you just get a sense that there's somebody there and you're not scared and you're not put off by it and it still feels welcoming, then yeah, I think it's okay. One of your guests that you had on there, he went to look at a house and he said it was absolutely over the top.
Just
I could probably clear it, but did I really want to? And he walked off. He walked away from that. That's an experienced person choosing to walk away because it felt over the top.
That was Giulio Consiglio.
Right.
Yeah, he knew it didn't feel right.
We all have that awareness. You're walking down the street and you see someone coming the other way. Most times you don't cross over, but every once in a while you see someone coming the other way. You go, that guy ain't right. Just that's the same sort of logic feeling that you need to apply if you walk into a place and it gives you the screaming eemy-jeemies. Like now is not the time to be brave.
No, I think so as well. I've worked in enough. Those who know me know I traditionally, I would say 95% of the time will only work in more malevolent hauntings. It's what I'm more. It's just where my area of study went, and it just seems to be something I had more of a knack to do. A lot of research didn't want to do it, send it to me because I don't mind putting the time in. I've had a lot of researchers say, you know what, we like the investigative part of it. We like interactive spirits, but we're not keen on having things follow back to our families and such. And so I've been in enough places where I know what that feels like. And man, what's amazing to me is I have felt that so many times, and I would think to myself, like, how many of them are out there that are like this? Because I have worked with a lot of people, and to think that you have children living in that situation. I worked in one place. It just looked like just a regular townhouse. Beautiful, beautiful townhouse, beautiful area. You had like mom, dad, you had, 3 little ones. And I mean, the kids are being thrown out of their bed. The baby was being thrown out of the crib. Things were stomping around up there. Like it was insane. I got some of the best phantom sounds that I've ever gotten anywhere. Like chains being dragged across the floor, and yet you're looking at it's a carpet. Like I remember in the basement, something had picked up one of the voice recorders. I could hear it being handled, and it would walk across. It sounded like old hardwood floors, and then you would sit down on this old creaky bed. This was a concrete basement.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a friend thing like that. He was looking for a squeak, and it followed him all over the house, and he finished in the basement, jumping up and down the concrete floor, and it was still squeaking.
Right.
The squeak just followed. It drove him crazy. Like every second step was a squeak. Anywhere, tile floor, up and down carpet, there was a squeak. But when you say about like how many are there, look at that time we filmed in Welland, and I went to work that night, and something followed each and every one of us home that night. And there was a whole bunch of us. That was just one thing that split multiple times.
Or got around, that's for sure.
Oh man, that was bad.
That was crazy. Rochelle says, I worry about the animals. I've seen awful things happen to animals as well. I think they go for the weakest link, a malevolent energy. Who's not going to fight back, a child or an animal? Pardon?
That explains a lot with me. They go for the weakest link. Get them.
I don't know. Anyway, I really enjoyed doing the segment. Of course, I really wanted to have hi, hi, Jadra. I really wanted to be able to follow up on last night's show and get into a little bit more of the flip side of things, because it's not all bad. And sometimes it's just people energy, psychokinesis, etc. We will have more, Astrid. We've got interesting open discussions coming up every month. There'll be at least one. So trying to get back into all of that. So and guys fell so far behind with the waiting list that now we can actually start doing a bit more. Which there we go. So next week it's going to be a bit of a heavier content week. So Tuesday, I welcome back Dr. Christopher Macklin. We're going to be exploring the dark side of technology. So tech is growing faster than we can keep up with. And as we jump aboard with both feet in, we're unknowingly, or are we unknowingly, opening up gateways, perhaps, to malevolent negative energies who are setting us up for potential attachments. Just think about the certain scientists who came forward to tell the world that they were opening up doorways to dark entities, and went as far as saying that they destroyed our world and created a simulation or reality for us. So Dr. Macklin is going to be sharing his perspective about this little known phenomenon that is embedding itself into our everyday lives, as he puts it. So we're going to catch all that. Wednesday, very special guest. I'm very pleased to welcome for the very first time guest Jason Sands. Jason is a retired master sergeant from the United States Air Force. He has served his nation through many different factions. He is also a former Legacy UAP program member and was featured on James Fox's documentary, The Program. He has had some profound experiences, including an encounter with non-human entity or intelligence, as we say, where he described a telepathic communication which deeply affected him, and it led him on a journey of personal growth while feeling connected to a much larger consciousness. He talks about the UFO, UAP retrieval program, technology, reverse engineering, as well as NHI involvement agreements that may be in place. He talks about the importance of disclosure and the need for public support. And as he continues his soul search, he seeks to understand the role of humanity as a whole and our place in the universe. Thursday night, another compadre, Carol Ann Iadarola, joins me, and we're going to have an exciting discussion on ITC. So we're going to be getting into, yes, instrumental transcommunication. But who's really on the other side of this line? Does the spirit AI bridge the gap or fake the signal? We're going to be looking at the fascination and need to communicate with the dead, which goes back thousands of years. Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, God, they're pioneers, and there have been so many since, and the devices have just kept evolving. But over the last century, it became a very popular tool method, I suppose, among ghost researchers and enthusiasts. But as we enter the last or latest stage, I don't know if it'll be the last of technology with algorithms and AI leading the way, we need to perhaps consider that we may need to redefine the voice that we are hearing from beyond. So this is a thing. We will explore instrumental transcommunication and spirit AI, bridging spiritualism with emerging technologies to question what actually is communicating from the other side. A little deeper, it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks to Wayne, of course, for coming on and having this amazing conversation. And big thanks to all of you guys who are just totally awesome for being here, as always. Yes, please do catch the replay. It'll be up immediately. And big thanks to United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. Thanks to Folgers Coffee. And of course, thanks to Steve McGinnis. And thanks to all of you. Have a terrific weekend. And hopefully we shall see you all on Tuesday afternoon on Beyond the Outer Realm. Good night.
Night, everybody.